I wasn't supposed to be there. She told me it was invite only. Strictly corporate, she said, like I'd asked to tag along to a dentist appointment. It's just logistics and numbers, boring stuff. So I sat in the back row, last chair against the wall, the kind of chair you take when you're not sure if you belong. Room was filled with men who smelled like venture capital and arrogance. Patagonia vests over pressed button-downs. Phones out, but not looking at them, like they'd already decided this pitch was worth their time. I didn't touch my phone, I just watched the stage. Then she walked out. Chelsea. Hair slicked back like she meant business. That soft pink lipstick she used to save for date nights. She wore the blazer I gave her last year, deep navy with silver trim. I remembered the way the saleswoman said, "This will make her feel unstoppable." Apparently it worked. She took the mic like she'd done it 100 times. No notes, no hesitation, just launched right into it. We believe emotional intelligence is the next frontier of innovation, and our AI platform is here to make empathy scalable. Scalable empathy, that's what she said, like love was a service. Her voice had this polished edge to it, practiced, just warm enough to feel real, just distant enough to sell. I'd heard that tone before during therapy exercises she ran with clients, not with me. With me, she used to sound tired but honest. She didn't mention me, not by name. But then he stepped out. Tall guy, broad shoulders, tan like he'd just come from a silent retreat in Bali. He wore a dark gray suit, no tie, and my grandfather's Rolex. I stared at the watch, that little scratch near the crown from when I dropped it at our wedding rehearsal. I'd thought it got lost during our last move. She said the box got misplaced. "It'll turn up," she smiled. I guess it did. He walked over and took the clicker from her like it was his stage now, introduced himself, Eli Matthews, co-founder. Chelsea smiled. "Equal founder," she said, gently correcting him with her hand on his forearm, the way she used to touch me when I said something awkward in public. They laughed, audience chuckled with them, I didn't. She pointed to a graph behind her, some early metrics about user retention or onboarding. I couldn't focus. Then she paused, eyes scanning the crowd, didn't land on me. "We wouldn't be here," she said, "without our first angel investor, a man who believed in us before we even had a prototype, who trusted the vision." No name. No acknowledgement. Just that. A lump settled in my throat, heavy, like trying to swallow a lie you told yourself too many times. They clapped for him, not for me. She never looked back, never flinched. And I didn't move. Not until the lights dimmed for the next slide. Not until the applause faded and all I could hear was the ticking of that damn Rolex from 20 feet away. I leaned back in my chair, cold plastic against my spine, the kind that creaks if you shift wrong, so I didn't. I just listened. To every word she spoke like it was a language I used to understand. Like a song you forgot the lyrics to, but still know how it made you feel. And that's when it hit me I wasn't part of her pitch. I was the product she leveraged, the seed funding she cashed in. The room smelled like ambition. Like coffee, sweat, and new money. And I just sat there. Because sometimes the quietest seat in the room is the one that hears everything. And I wasn't done listening yet. It's strange how quiet plans are. Not the big ones, not the "I'm quitting my job" kind of plans. I mean the quiet ones: morning coffee by a lake, a porch swing, maybe a dog that barks at squirrels. The kind of life you can't buy in the city. That's what we used to talk about. She'd bring brochures to the table like they were love letters. Places with names like Whispering Pines or Cedar Hollow. Always a lake view, always just enough space for peace. She said peace a lot that year. I kept a folder in the drawer by the fridge. I labeled it Retirement Cabin. She joked it was the only thing I ever organized. She wasn't wrong. We talked about selling the condo, cashing out while the market was hot. I remember standing on the balcony one night, watching the city lights and thinking, this is temporary. That's how much I trusted her. She said she wanted to write a book, something about therapy or healing or how the brain holds secrets. I told her it sounded important. She smiled and said, "You always make me feel like I can do anything." We started merging things, bank accounts, long-term stuff. I rolled my IRA into one of those high-yield hybrid things she found, said it was smarter that way. I didn't even ask questions. She was the one who read the fine print. I remember signing the paperwork at the kitchen table. She wore this oversized sweater, sleeves pushed up, reading glasses halfway down her nose. I looked at her like, this is who I built my life around. She looked up and said, "What?" "Nothing," I said. "You look like someone I'd trust with my future." She laughed. "You did just hand me your retirement." I didn't realize she wasn't joking. Nights were quiet. We watched old movies on mute with subtitles. She liked the ones where everyone was in love but no one said it out loud. I didn't get it, but I liked watching her get it. She kissed my forehead every night before bed, said I deserved peace. She started using that word more and more, peace, like it was a currency. She'd say things like, "You're not built for chaos," or "You've done your share of heavy lifting, babe. Let me handle the big picture now." So I let her handle the big picture. I didn't check statements, didn't ask about that one extra credit card she said she needed for travel expenses. She bought a new laptop, said it was for writing, got an iPad for reading drafts on the go. I shrugged. Maybe the book was really happening. Then she joined this thing, some therapy mastermind group with retreats and breakout sessions and partner brainstorms. I teased her about the buzzwords. She said I was old-fashioned. I said, "That's kind of the point, right?" She didn't answer. She started getting up earlier, started leaving the house in heels, said she was working on building something bigger than just a practice, something scalable. She still kissed my forehead, still said I deserved peace. But she also started locking her office door. I didn't ask because peace doesn't question, peace doesn't snoop, peace trusts. And I was trying really, really hard to be peaceful. One morning she brought home a tiny bonsai tree, said it was symbolic, that the tree grows slowly but only with patience and care. She placed it in the window by the kitchen and watered it every day for 2 weeks. Then she stopped. I kept watering it. Every morning. Even when the leaves started to curl. Even when I knew it wasn't going to make it. Because when someone tells you you deserve peace, you try to prove them right. Even if they've already moved on to something louder. Something with applause. It started with the shoes. She used to wear those soft, faded canvas ones, the kind with frayed edges and coffee stains on the soles. I remember teasing her once, said they looked like something a college student would wear to a hangover brunch. She smiled and said, "Comfort matters when you're fixing people's lives." Then one day she came home in heels, black, glossy, tight at the ankle. She kicked them off in the hallway and said nothing. Just walked straight to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared into it like she was hopping Clarity lived behind the hummus. That was the first time I noticed it. That shift in the air, the invisible kind, like a room you've been in 100 times but something been moved just an inch and now you can't stop seeing it. She said her therapy practice was growing, bigger clients, more pressure. That's why she started coming home late. "Sorry," she'd mumbled, dropping her keys on the counter. "Emergency call." He was spiraling, had to walk him back from the edge. I never asked who he was. I figured confidentiality or whatever. Sometimes I'd already be in bed when she came home. I'd hear the door click shut, soft. Then the sound of her heels on the hardwood, a zipper, a wine glass, her voice low, rapid on the phone in the guest bathroom. She stopped taking calls in front of me. She started muttering things like minimum viable model and human-centered scale. I didn't know what any of it meant, and when I asked, she'd wave me off. It's just startup lingo, you wouldn't care. I said, I care about what you care about. She looked at me and tilted her head. That's sweet. She didn't say she cared back. Weekends used to be hours, farmers' markets, breakfast in socks. Now she booked herself for things like founder intensives and disruptor panels. I asked if she was consulting. She shrugged. Something like that. Her outfits changed. Suits instead of sweaters. Nails done in that sharp almond shape I'd never seen on her before. She used to say manicures were for people with something to prove. I guess she had something to prove now. She joined a carking space downtown, said she needed creative energy. I packed her lunch the first week, left a sticky note that said, "Don't forget to breathe." When she came home, she said the sandwich was cute. That's when the passwords started changing. Her laptop locked itself every time she stepped away. She added two-factor to her phone. I noticed her clearing her browser history, not that I checked, but it was always clean. Too clean. Her iPad had a new passcode. I picked it up one day to play a podcast while I cooked, and it buzzed like I'd done something wrong. Privacy boundaries, she said from across the room. Her tone didn't match the words, it was clipped, practiced. Boundaries, I asked. You hiding nuclear codes on there? She didn't laugh, just stared. You've never understood how much emotional space I hold for other people. Sometimes I just need digital space too. Digital space. She used to let me read drafts of her session notes when she was stuck, asked for feedback, said I had emotional common sense. Now I barely knew what city she was in half the time. One night she came home late again. She dropped her bag on the couch and went straight to the mirror, pulled off her earrings like they were anchors. I asked, "You okay?" She didn't turn around, just kept rubbing her ear like it itched. "I'm fine." "You sure you look?" She spun. "I'm just tired, okay? I'm building something here. You don't get it." I stood still. She softened. "I don't mean that in a bad way. You're just comfortable. Routine works for you." "And that's bad." "No, it's just," she looked down at her hands, "I'm not routine anymore." She walked past me and into the bedroom. I stayed in the living room staring at the bag she dropped on the couch. A leather tote. New. Expensive. I'd never seen it before. I could still smell the store on it. I thought about opening it. I didn't. I just sat there. Because sometimes when things start to shift, you hold still. Like maybe if you don't move, it'll all stop tilting. But things don't stop tilting. They just fall quietly over time. And by the time you realize what's actually breaking, you're already underneath it. It was a Tuesday when I found the wire transfer. She was in Chicago, some empathy accelerator retreat, whatever that meant. Said they'd be off-grid, no signal. I didn't ask why a licensed therapist needed 3 days in the woods with startup founders. I just nodded and helped her zip her suitcase. The email from Chase came that afternoon. I almost deleted it, thought it was one of those fraud alerts, but the amount made me stop. $174,000. Wire transfer confirmation. I blinked, refreshed the page, thought maybe it was a mistake. The memo said, "Founder's seed injection." I sat back, felt something tighten in my ribs. That was everything. Our joint savings, retirement, the IRA I'd moved under her financial plan, everything except my crypto wallet, which, thankfully, she never figured out how to access. I opened the account history. Months of transfers little by little, clean, smart. Moved through sub-accounts, filtered through things labeled wellness expansion, EMR upgrade, client reimbursement. But they weren't reimbursements. They were drains. I stared at the screen and couldn't feel my hands. It was like they didn't belong to me anymore. I scrolled, line after line. And then one charge hit different: a conference in Portland 6 months ago. That's where she met him. I remembered because she brought back some organic lavender chocolate and said, "Healer fuel." I thought she meant one of her clients had given it to her. I thought a lot of things. I opened her laptop. She never used to lock it. Now she did, but this time she forgot to log out. Inbox was clean, but her drafts folder, that was full. Investor emails, decks, a PDF titled Bridge Strategy Final Pitch. I clicked. First slide had her name and his. Chelsea Dunning, LMFT co-founder. Ellie Matthews, co-founder. They had a logo, tagline, a whole mission statement. AI-driven empathy for the loneliness economy. I didn't even know there was a loneliness economy. Then the photos started. One of them brainstorming on a whiteboard. One of them in front of a WeWork sign, holding matcha lattes. One, the one that made me stop breathing, showed the two of them clinking champagne glasses in what looked like a hotel suite. The caption said, "From secrets to IPOs." That's when I knew. There wasn't just a company. There was a life, and I wasn't in it. I got up, walked to the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the grout. She always said we should redo the tile. Never did. I used to think it made the place feel lived in. Now it just felt cheap. My phone buzzed, her face on the screen. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail saying they were heading into their digital detox, that she'd call me when she resurfaced. "I love you," she added, like punctuation. I sat in the dark for a while. Then I went back to the laptop. I started screenshotting everything. Emails, decks, transaction logs. I sent it all to myself. A burner email I'd created in college to get free trials. I hadn't used it in years, but suddenly it felt right. I pulled up her browser history. That's when I saw it. State licensing board, ethical violation, dual relationships, prenup loopholes, angel investment laws, marital consent. She was researching ways to clean this up, to protect herself. From me. I should have felt angry, but I didn't. I felt precise. Like something cold had settled in. Not rage, not grief, just stillness. I checked our prenup. She insisted on one before we got married, said it was about mature expectations. Back then, I'd admired how pragmatic she was. The prenup covered cash, equity, property. But not crypto. She always rolled her eyes when I brought up crypto, said it was unstable masculinity in digital form. That instability might have saved me. I copied that too. I printed everything, put it in a blue folder, same kind we used when we bought the condo. I liked the symmetry. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the dining table, the one she'd picked because it was grounding. I watched the bonsai tree in the corner, brittle, leaves curling in on themselves. She stopped watering it weeks ago. I thought about texting her, asking for the truth. But she'd just say something like, "You're imagining things," or "We'll talk when I get back." And maybe that was the worst part, the way I already knew how she'd lie. Like it was just part of the routine now. She used to say I was her safe place. But apparently, safety isn't scalable. And neither is silence. So I stopped being silent. I didn't confront her. Not because I was scared, not because I didn't want to. Because she'd already written me out of the script. I was background noise now. The man she thanked silently in pitch decks. The original angel investor, her words, not mine. Angels don't ask questions. But I did, just not to her. I hired a lawyer. First meeting, she asked, "Do you want justice or a clean break?" I said, "I want silence to mean something." She nodded and slid a legal pad toward me. So I started writing. Every transaction, every login time, every withdrawal labeled wellness retreat. that led to another invoice from his design firm, or their brand consultant, or her favorite boutique hotel in Chicago. I printed it all, labeled it by date, timestamps, cross-referenced statements. It took 2 weeks, most of it done at night, long after she was asleep on the couch pretending to read about trauma recovery. She used to read real books. Now she skimmed blog posts and called it research. I didn't tell her I'd frozen the HELOC. Didn't tell her the crypto wallet she used to roll her eyes at now held a third of our net worth. Didn't tell her I forwarded copies of her licensure board's code of ethics to our attorney, highlighted the parts about dual relationships, marked the clause about financial conflict with clients. Eli used to be one of her patients. Found his name buried in her billing software. Just one entry, 6 sessions, 3 years ago. Deleted but not permanently. I guess she didn't know I worked in it before I quit. She always said my memory was too sharp. You never forget anything, she used to laugh, kissing the back of my hand. She stopped laughing when I stopped asking where she was going. That's when she noticed the shift. You've been quiet lately, she said one night, folding laundry like it was her job. I watched her match socks that didn't belong to me. Just tired. She nodded. You're not journaling again, are you? I thought you said journaling was healthy. She didn't answer. The next morning I kissed her forehead like always, told her to have a good trip. She said they were finalizing a huge pitch. Might change everything. I smiled. Good luck. When the door closed behind her, I waited exactly 1 hour. Then I opened her laptop. She always left her pitch materials synced to Dropbox. Said it was easier that way, just in case the cloud fails. The folder was titled, Investor Pitch Final Reel This Time, PPTX. Slide 1, her name, his name, logo, smiling faces. Slide 5, early investment from private capital, no names. Slide 9, emotional data platform for scalable empathy. I almost laughed. Slide 12 listed the pitch location. Hilton Midtown Ballroom B, Thursday, 4 p.m. I booked my ticket that night. Quiet row, exit aisle, no carry-on, just a blue folder with everything she thought I'd never find. I didn't pack a bag. Didn't need one. She called the night before the pitch. Said she missed me. Said things were lining up. I can feel it, this is it. Sounds like a big day, I said. You have no idea. I stared out the hotel window and watched traffic move like blood through the city's veins. She asked what I was thinking. I'm proud of you, I said, and meant it in a strange way. She built something. Just not with me. I hung up first. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. The next day, I wore the suit I'd saved for our 10-year anniversary dinner. We never made it that far. I took the subway. Stood in the back of the elevator with a dozen people who smelled like ambition and almond lattes. Ballroom B was half full, mostly men, laptops open, whispering in acronyms. I sat in the back row. Didn't breathe when she walked out. Didn't blink when she thanked their silent investor. I waited. Let them sell their story. Let them bask in the lights. And just before they ended, I slid the folder under the chair of the man in the front row. Black vest, silver hair, wedding ring, the kind of guy who'd ask the right questions. He opened it. His brow furrowed, then his phone lit up. I watched him scroll, then nudge the guy next to him, and the next. I stood quietly, buttoned my coat, met her eyes for exactly 1 second. She froze mid-sentence, and I walked out. No words, no storm, just strategy, and a silence she'd hear for the rest of her life. I didn't hear her voice again until 3 days after the pitch. Voicemail. 37 seconds of calculated calm, wrapped in panic. Hey, something weird happened during the presentation. Someone passed out folders, I guess. There's been a misunderstanding. I don't know if it just spiraled. Call me when you can, okay? I need to hear your voice. I didn't call her back. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd burned through that. What was left was clean, quiet, like the inside of a courtroom after the jury leaves. My lawyer called the same day. Said 2 of the investors had already reached out. They want proof, I asked. No, she said. They want to make sure you're not pressing charges. I didn't need to. The evidence did enough damage on its own. The email I sent, well, the one from the burner account, was short. Subject line, due diligence before you sign. No signature, no threats, just facts, screenshots, bank transfers, ethics board citations. That billing record showing Eli as a former client, the same one she thought she deleted. I even highlighted the section of the licensing code that forbade romantic or business entanglements with patients for 2 years after treatment. She waited 18 months. Legal, barely. Ethical, not even close. They built their whole brand around emotional integrity. Turns out investors care about that when there's liability involved. The startup's name disappeared from LinkedIn within a week. The website redirected to a dead Wix page. Their seed round vanished. And with it, so did Eli. His Instagram went silent. His thought leadership post stopped. Last thing I saw was a blurry photo of a whiteboard captioned, "Never build with secrets. They always leak." I assumed that was for her. She kept calling. Always around 10:45 p.m., the time we used to brush our teeth together. Back when her hair smelled like eucalyptus and her eyes didn't dart when she said, "I love you." I never blocked her. I just didn't answer. My lawyer drafted the financial separation documents. We didn't need to fight over the condo. She put it up for sale herself, maybe to cover legal bills, maybe because the walls remembered too much. I signed every form with a blue pen, same one I used when I proposed. She tried emailing once. Subject, closure. Said I'd blindsided her, said I should have come to her first. She said I thought we were a team. I stared at the blinking cursor for a long time. Then I typed, "So did I," and hit delete. Never sent it. I didn't need the last word. I had the last move. The prenup didn't cover digital assets. Back then she thought crypto was a phase. Fake money for fake men, she joked. I'd smiled, let her laugh. But I never stopped investing. My cold wallet sat in a fireproof box under the sink, still untouched, still mine. When I told my lawyer what it was worth now, she paused, then said, "You know, you don't have to tell her." "I know," I said, "I won't." Financial revenge isn't about taking something away. It's about showing them what they never understood. She thought I was the safe bet, the fallback plan, the one who'd never leave. She used my money to build a fantasy. I used my silence to end it. No lawsuits. No screaming. Just a man in a quiet suit, handing a folder to the right person at the exact right time. She always said timing was everything. She just didn't know I was listening when she said it. Now she does. The first voicemail started with her saying my name like it still belonged to her. Then she said, "I just want to talk." By the 6th message, she didn't sound so composed. "You misinterpreted everything," she said. "We were building something real. You always said you believed in my work." By the 9th, she was crying, or pretending to. It wasn't like that. Eli and we had to make choices. It wasn't personal. Wasn't personal. I replayed that one once just to hear the part where her voice cracked. Not out of cruelty, just curiosity, wanted to know if it was real. She sent a letter, actual paper, cream envelope, Her handwriting the same looped cursive she used to leave on my birthday cards. She called it a reflection. Said I'd sabotaged a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She used the word we 8 times. We had momentum. We built the foundation. We could have been unstoppable. I folded the letter in half and dropped it into the kitchen trash, right on top of the empty coffee grounds. She used to grind the beans fresh every morning, said stale coffee was a sin. I switched to instant. Faster, quieter. She didn't show up at the condo. I think part of her still expected I'd reach out. Maybe to scream, maybe to cry, maybe just to ask why. But I didn't. I ghosted her. Not in a way you do to a stranger on a dating app. I ghosted her the way you ghost a house you once lived in. One drawer at a time. The licensing board sent a letter, said the ethics complaint had been formally reviewed, that an investigation had been opened. Standard process, but serious. She'd always said her license was sacred, that therapists don't get second chances if they screw it up. I didn't reply. I wasn't the complainant, just the witness. Their startup was never mentioned again in the blogs she used to beg to be featured in. Her headshots vanished from the speaker lineup of that Women in Tech event she'd been counting down to. I got a refund for the unused therapy copay from 3 months prior, a check for $85.32. No note. I cashed it. She texted once. I miss the way you used to look at me like I mattered. I read it while eating takeout on the floor, no furniture left except the lamp. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words. Because nothing she sent deserved an answer. Some people think closure is a conversation. Sometimes it's just the absence of one. And in that silence, I found something I didn't expect. Clarity. She used to say I was too calm, that it scared her. But calm isn't absence. It's decision. And mine was already made. I wasn't going back. This is Revenge with Camden. If you've ever been backstabbed by someone you'd take a bullet for, hit subscribe. You're not alone.